Just a split second.
What?
And in that split second, I saw something that made me choke.
What? Whoa!
The cloud 1,000 times worse, because when I turned back around and faced the street, that person wasn't lying down anymore.
What?
They were sitting perfectly upright, staring at me.
Whoa! What's good, guys? My name is ReboundLeader. Welcome back with another video for today, guys. So we're gonna be reacting to 3 very true rainy night horror stories. You know what I'm saying? We're on that season where it's like spring, right? So it's raining a little bit, it's cloudy a little bit, then it gets sunny again. We're in the season of spring, rain a little bit here and there. Let's see what's going on. Let's see how messed up rainy night horror stories can be. Let's get right to it.
This happened when I was really young. I'm talking 2nd or 3rd grade. It's hard for me to remember things clearly from that long ago, but this memory stands out for reasons you'll soon understand. It was a school day, and it had been raining cats and dogs all day. After picking me up from school, my parents left the house for some upscale events. I can't remember if it was a fundraiser or a dinner party or something else entirely. Either way, they were supposed to come back home that night, but while they were gone, the storm picked up like crazy, and it became unsafe to drive long distances. So instead of driving back home, they reluctantly decided to spend the night at one of their friends' houses who lived much closer to where the event was. I remember them calling me on the house phone and repeatedly apologizing for leaving me there by myself, even though I insisted that I wasn't even hungry and I'd be fine. My mom gave me a list of things to do before bed. Lock all the doors and windows, keep at least one house light on, make sure all the blinds were closed. Typical stuff. At the time, I didn't
your parents are right. Keep everything locked in that house.
understand why they were making such a big deal about everything. I wasn't quite old enough to realize how important it was to not leave kids my age home alone. In fact, I was actually kind of excited to have the place to myself. It meant unlimited candy and no bedtime. I obviously didn't have a TV or any kind of screen in my room, so I stayed downstairs in the living room watching TV on the couch. I told myself I'd do all that stuff my mom had requested right before going to sleep, since I was planning on staying up all.
Wow. So you're going to make sure everything is locked in your house before you go to sleep? You're not going to do it now? Bro, the enemy does not wait for you to go to sleep. They'll do it whenever they want.
Night anyway.
That's
but
crazy.
At some point later in the night, the sugar crash got to me, and I accidentally fell asleep.
Oh my
No surprise there. I don't remember exactly what time I ended up waking up, but it was late enough for the TV to have gone into sleep mode, so 3 hours minimum. I distinctly remember being much colder when I woke up. Nothing too out of the ordinary. I mean, temperatures drop at night, but the difference was significant enough for me to instantly make the connection, even at that young age. I thought about just curling back up and going back to sleep, but then I remembered the list my mom had given me. Even at that age, I knew she'd find out if I didn't do it, and I really didn't want to get in trouble after she trusted me to stay home alone. So I forced myself off the couch and went to check the windows and doors. I went around and did everything she asked. Locked the front and back doors, closed all the blinds, checked the windows, even the light.
Too late.
Everything was shut tight, which confused me a little because the house still felt way colder than it should have.
Yeah.
I even put my hand against a couple of the windows to make sure they weren't cracked open or something.
Bro.
They were all sealed.
Yeah, no they weren't.
I figured maybe the storm knocked out the heater or something, and I didn't think much more about it.
You missed one, bro.
That explanation made sense to me at the time, and I was so tired that I couldn't devote more energy to thinking about the heat. So I headed upstairs to my room, ready to crawl into bed and forget about it. When I got to my room, I finally realized just how bad the storm had gotten. Our living room is tucked into the center of the house, so I hadn't really been able to appreciate the storm from down there. My childhood bedroom has a big external window though, so I could hear everything. The rain was slamming against the glass like it was trying to get in. And every minute or so, there was a burst of lightning, followed by a deafening clash of thunder. I wasn't scared of storms at that age, but I do remember being concerned that a tree was going to fall on the house. That's probably why I had trouble falling back asleep, even though I had been dead tired not even 20 minutes prior. As I was lying there, trying to fall asleep, I started picking up on these odd sounds. Every so often, there were these weird creaking sounds, like shifting wood. Thing is, the entire floor is carpeted, so it couldn't have been coming from my room.
Oh my god.
At first, I thought it was a tree swaying in the wind, but the sound didn't quite fit.
Someone's in your house.
Even then, I knew the general sounds associated with thunderstorms. This definitely wasn't one of them. It started bothering me after a while. For whatever reason, It wasn't the storm keeping me up. It was that stupid sound. I couldn't take it much longer.
You should have listened to your parents, bro. You see what happens when you don't listen to your parents? You have to make sure everything, when your parents gives you a list of things you gotta do, when you're home alone, you do it immediately. You don't wait until you go to bed. By then it's too late.
So I sat up and looked around the room, not really sure what I was looking for. I listened, trying to drown out the sounds of the storm and focus in on the creaking. Lightning flashed, illuminating the whole room. Everything looked normal, but my eyes were drawn to the only wooden thing in the room, the closet.
Oh boy.
The room went dark again, and I sat there perfectly still. About a minute later, lightning flashed again, and my room was once again lit up for just a split second.
What?
And in that split second, I saw something that made me choke.
What? Whoa!
The closet door was slightly ajar.
Whoa!
It had been closed before.
Frick! Yo, nah. Yo, oh my goodness. Yo, imagine. I can't imagine this, bro. Nope. We're gonna stand up for this one.
I was 100% sure of it. Something had opened it.
Bruh, who
There was
opened
something in my room.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't scream, I didn't speak.
Bro.
I didn't even think. I just got out of bed as quietly as I could and walked out of the room.
Oh my goodness.
That walk from the bed to the door felt like a 500-mile, 5-year journey.
Lord have mercy.
I immediately went downstairs and hid under the dining room table. Then, and only then, I started crying. I didn't know what else to do.
Call.
There was someone in my house.
Did your parents not tell you what to do if something happens? You lock yourself in your room, call the police. Like, there's nothing like that? Wow.
In my room, and my parents were too far away to help me. I'm not sure how long I stayed under that table, but at one point, I heard footsteps walking down the stairs.
Oh wow.
I held my breath, knowing that any sound I made could have ended my life. They weren't normal footsteps. It sounded like whatever it was jumping and pinballing down the stairs.
What?
The footsteps got closer.
What the
They
frick?
were approaching the dining room table like they knew where I was hiding. I can't tell you how scared I was. I really thought I was gonna die. And then, from under the table, I saw them. I couldn't see their upper body.
Thumb?
Two bare feet walked into view.
What?
Two nasty, wet, and muddy legs that were tinted yellow. I couldn't tell if they were male or
Oh, they're homeless. They gotta be.
female legs. That's how gross and almost disfigured they looked.
That's crazy.
There were cuts all over their legs, like they had rolled around in a thorn bush.
Oh my
They
gosh.
were also stumbling, like they were struggling to even stand upright.
This is
And
crazy.
just as I thought it couldn't get any worse,
What?
I dropped something. It was a
No.
wrench. It
No.
clattered against the floor, and I'm
No.
telling you, it took every fiber in my
No.
being to fight back a scream.
No.
If that person bent down to pick the wrench up, they'd definitely see me.
Yeah.
With wide eyes, I watched as that person stood still, not picking up the wrench, but not walking away either. It felt like a standoff, where any wrong move could end my
Oh
life.
no. He knew.
Eventually,
knows.
they finally continued walking, and I couldn't see them anymore.
That's weird.
I listened as the chaotic footsteps stomped and stumbled around my first floor for what felt like an eternity. And then, finally, the front door opened and shut. They were gone.
No, I don't believe
I
it.
stayed hidden under that table for a long time after that. Part of it was fear, but another part of it was what I can only describe as trauma.
Yeah.
I just remember being shaken and scared. I was at the ripe age where I understood how dangerous the situation was, but not old enough to know how to deal with it. The rest of the night was kind of a blur. I picked the wrench up off the floor, not wanting my parents to find it the next morning. After making sure the front door was locked, I slunked back upstairs, crawled into bed, and fell asleep.
Crazy.
Everything went back to normal after that. For whatever reason, I was terrified to tell my parents.
Wow.
I didn't want them to find out I hadn't locked the doors and done everything
That's
they had asked me
crazy.
to do.
You didn't even
So
tell
I just
your
kept the whole thing to
parents.
myself. It wasn't until several years later that I told them the story, and it actually took some convincing for them to believe me.
Wow.
Looking back, not telling them the moment it happened was an awful decision, since there was nothing that could have been done about it so far removed from the incident.
Yeah.
If I'm being frank, this experience traumatized me for basically the rest of my childhood. I slept with a nightlight from then on, and I developed a fear of the dark that didn't go away for a long time.
That's
I
crazy.
still have trouble explaining what happened that night, but I learned my lesson. Lock your doors at night.
Thank you. Lock your doors, windows, and vents. Always.
I'm an only child and live with my mom and dad in a decently sized home. It's a little big for just the three of us, but my parents' running joke is that it was never their intention to have only one kid. They just never got around to having more. Anyway, I was 15 when this happened. It was a rainy Saturday night sometime in May. I can't remember exactly when this happened, but I do remember that it was during one of the last weekends before summer started up. There's one last thing I have to mention. I have a lot of weird medical conditions that make my life difficult. I get frequent panic attacks, faint easily, and struggle breathing at times. I'm also one of those weird people who needs complete and total silence to fall asleep. Like, even a small fan is enough to keep me awake. I've mostly learned how to deal with it, but sleepovers and vacations are still unbearable.
Well, that sucks.
People always tell me they love the sound of rain and that it helps them fall asleep. But it does the exact opposite for me.
Oh, that
It doesn't rain
sucks.
often where I'm from, but every now and then we get these insane downpours that keep me up all night.
Wow.
To be fair, it wasn't a full-on thunderstorm, but it was raining heavily enough to keep me up. No matter what I tried, I couldn't block out the sound of raindrops pattering against the roof. It was late, sometime well after midnight, when I faced the reality that I wasn't going to sleep anytime soon. So I got out of bed and thought about ways I could expend some energy. Eventually, I decided to go for a little walk in the rain. This wasn't the first time I had done that. Walking in the rain was actually something my parents encouraged me to do when I couldn't sleep. We live in a very safe residential area, and there's a huge public park that borders my house. So being out late isn't dangerous at all. Plus, the park is...
Being out late isn't dangerous at all? I don't care. I'm not going out late. Doesn't matter if you say it's not dangerous at all. It's still dangerous. You never know who's out there, bro.
very well lit, which is another one of the reasons I've always felt so comfortable walking there late at night.
That's crazy.
Put on a rain jacket, quietly walked downstairs, and stepped outside without even bothering to bring an umbrella.
That's
I
crazy.
purposely didn't bring my phone because
Yeah, this dude's
I knew
weird.
myself well enough that
This dude didn't even bring his phone. Oh, he wants to get clocked up. He does not want to be found. This is crazy.
phone screen was only going to keep me up. It was oddly peaceful outside. I've always been one for nature, and seeing all the trees gently swaying in the wind with the raindrops screaming down their branches was exactly what I wanted.
Wow.
After about 20 minutes, I started to feel myself getting tired, which was a good thing. I turned around and started walking back towards my house, figuring I'd be able to fall asleep by the time I got back. As I was cutting through the park, I glanced toward the road and saw something strange. There was a long black object lying flat in the middle of the street. At first, I thought it was an oddly shaped garbage bag or something like that. But the more I looked at it, it was a person just lying there in the middle of the street.
What?
Face down too from the looks of it.
What the
I
heck?
felt a sick feeling bubbling up in my stomach.
Nah, bro.
The only thought bouncing around my brain was the likely possibility that they had been hit by a car and were injured,
That's nuts.
or worse. There was no other logical reason why someone would be lying motionlessly in the street,
To catch
especially
you.
while it was raining.
To capture
As
you.
much as my gut told me to just keep my head down and continue walking, I felt like I had to do something. My parents raised me a certain way. If I see a person in need, I have to help them.
Well, you could have called the police if you brought your phone.
God have mercy upon us.
Instincts. I started approaching the person in the street. As I got closer, I was able to make out what they were wearing. Black pants and a dark plaid shirt. Definitely not the type of attire someone would wear during heavy rain. Judging by the clothing, it was a man, but that's what I had already assumed. I'm not sure if it was the gravity of the situation or something else, but as I was walking toward the street, I realized for the first time that night how cold I was. Like the rain was lukewarm one second and ice cold the next, if that even makes any sense. As I was closing in on the road,
Yeah,
a
sounds
screech
demonic.
rang out from somewhere behind me. Instinct took over and I whipped my head around,
What?
adrenaline flooding my veins.
What the frick?
It sounded like a howl, but slightly off. Like a wounded animal. That's the only way I can describe it.
Oh, heck
A
no.
quick scan of the tree line revealed nothing. The sound must have come from deeper in the park, meaning there was no imminent danger. Still, the sheer strangeness of it all had my heart racing. I had never heard anything like it before, and the lack of an explanation was what triggered that feeling of pure fear. But that feeling was about to get 1,000 times worse, because when I turned back around and faced the street, that person wasn't lying down anymore.
What?
They were sitting perfectly upright, staring at me.
Whoa!
In that moment, Everything started fading and my vision narrowed.
No!
The only thing keeping me from passing out right there was the muffled sound of 1,000 raindrops pattering all around me.
What the frick?
Before I could react, that person stood up and started sprinting towards me with a demonic smile on his face.
What?
And what's worse, he was holding what looked like a kitchen knife.
Oh, I told you this was a trap. This is crazy, bro. This is a trap from the devil. This is a trap from the enemy. There is no way. Oh my gosh. Yo, this is what, and you don't even have your phone. You have nothing. Say goodbye.
Up until that moment, I didn't know what it meant to truly fear for your life. I snapped out of my haze and ran as fast as I could in the opposite direction.
Wow.
As soon as I started running, I heard him yell, "I'll kill you," at the top of his lungs.
Oh, that's nuts.
The wet grass made it impossible to run at full speed.
That is crazy.
But my one saving grace was that whoever was chasing me would have to deal with the same thing. I didn't want to lead him to my house, so I ran towards the trees, hoping I could lose him in the park.
Oh no.
That's where the screech had just come from, I know, but I didn't have another choice.
Oh, that's
I didn't look
crazy.
back.
Bro, they basically trapped you. They trapped you. Whoever made that scream is there, waiting for you.
Once. I just ran like my life depended on it. And considering how insanely cracked out that guy looked, I think my life actually did depend on it. I ran towards the densest part of the park, hoping I'd be able to hide in there before he caught up to me. I didn't even know if he was still chasing me, but I didn't care. Part of me felt like if I stopped running, the fear would catch up to me and I'd pass out immediately.
That would have been crazy,
I made
bro.
it into the woods, and right when I was about to throw up from exhaustion, I ducked behind a tree and tried to catch my breath. I looked behind me, and there was no one, or at least no one I could see. The only thought on my mind at that point was how in the world I was going to get home safely. I didn't feel comfortable moving, so I just waited there. I must have waited at least 20 minutes before finally stepping out from behind that tree. I took the long way home, around the backside of the park and through this other section that spit me out a few streets away from my house. No one followed me. I finally made it home and collapsed on my bed, drenched and basically traumatized. I never got an answer for anything that happened that night.
What?
That howl is honestly what confuses me the most.
What the
I have
heck?
a hard time believing it was somehow related to the man that tried to attack me, but it's just too coincidental. I think what happened is that guy heard the screech too, looked up, saw me, and then did whatever he did for whatever reason. As for his motivation, I have no idea. There's just crazy people out there. Maybe he was on drugs or something.
Doesn't have to be a
It's
motivation,
not a real
bro.
explanation, but I can't think of a better one. I still live in the same house today, and even though several years have gone by, it's hard not to think about this experience every so often.
That's crazy. That is nuts. Yeah, you better bring your phone everywhere you go. You better not be even taking walks outside.
I'm 29 years old, and one of the only things that's ever really helped me clear my head is camping. Not campgrounds or national parks where there's other people around. I'm talking true middle of nowhere camping. I grew up in Northern California, and I've spent the better part of my adult life learning to find those remote little pockets where you can still feel like the only person left on Earth. This story took place a few months ago. I had just broken up with my ex. Let's just say I was going through it. I needed to be alone. So one day, I just packed up my truck and headed out. I didn't have a specific plan. I just threw some gear together and decided to go back to a quiet riverside spot I'd stumbled across once before. It wasn't an official campsite or anything, just a little bend in the river you could reach if you followed this barely there dirt road past a whole lot of nothing. I got there sometime in the late afternoon, but the second I turned down the dirt path that led to the river, my stomach sank a little. There were already 2 trucks parked near the trailhead, one gray and one white.
What the heck?
I couldn't see anyone around, but just knowing other people were out there kind of killed the vibe for me. I hadn't driven all this way out in the middle of nowhere to interact with people.
You're crazy, bro. For you to drive in the middle of nowhere, all this way in the middle of nowhere just not to be seen? You're crazy. By yourself? You didn't even bring one person with you. You only brought yourself. Me, myself, and I. You are nuts.
I sat there for a second, debating whether I should just turn around and find another spot.
Go home.
But I told myself it was a big stretch of river, and chances were whoever owned those trucks were camped far enough away that I wouldn't even see them. I hiked maybe 15 minutes downriver when I saw 2 guys fishing up ahead.
Those are them.
They looked like the type you'd expect to see fishing. Thick beards, a little overweight, heavy boots, but it seemed like they were more focused on something else.
What?
As I got closer, One of them quickly covered something with his jacket and gave me this awkward half smile.
Uh-oh.
As I passed, he called out, saying something about how they were just target shooting cans and didn't mean to freak me out. I just gave a polite nod and kept walking without saying anything.
Uh-oh.
As I kept walking, I couldn't help but replay the guy's comment in my head. It wasn't even what he said that bothered me. It was how rushed and awkward it came out. Like he was trying too hard to sound casual. I got that uneasy feeling you get when something doesn't quite add up.
Yeah.
But I pushed it down. People out there weren't exactly known for their social skills. It wasn't that weird for rural folks to be a little off when it came to talking to strangers. I told myself to let it go and focus on finding a good spot to set up camp. I found a spot a little further down the bend where the trees were thicker and the trail dipped out of sight.
This dude just wants to die, bro. When the trees are thicker and, bro, you don't want to live. This dude does not care about life. He does not care.
It wasn't perfect, but it was tucked away enough that I felt like I had my own space.
You didn't even bring your Bible.
Set up camp, pulled out a book, and tried to settle in.
Book? Is it the Bible? You need protection. You need the word. Like, you didn't bring that? GG's.
Love of God! For the love of God!
It started raining lightly not long after, so I threw on my rain jacket and kept at it, letting the sound of the river and the soft drizzle drown everything else out. Later, I wandered down to the rocks by the river's edge to reflect a little bit. That's when I noticed someone across the water. It was one of the guys from earlier.
Uh-oh.
The one who had called out to me.
Say
Only
goodbye.
This time he was alone. He spotted me and waved. I hesitated, then waved back, figuring it was better to be friendly. He yelled across, asking for my name. I don't know why, but
You better not give him your real name.
I shouted back my real name, Anisha, without really thinking about it. He stood there for a second after I answered, then pulled something out of his jacket. At first, I thought it was a phone, but then I realized it looked more like a disposable
Wait, did this person just say Anisha? Yeah. So you're a girl? Am I tripping? So a girl is doing this by herself?
camera. Before I could even process it, he held it up and took a picture of me from across the river.
What?
Then, without another word, he just turned and started walking back up the riverbank like nothing had happened.
GG's.
I was beyond creeped out.
Yeah, he wants to know
Weird
your
speech
location.
patterns and mannerisms were one thing, but taking a picture of me, that was next level strange.
Yeah, you
I
should
headed
just
back to my campsite and just figured I'd stay put for the rest of the night.
you should have just left.
After the sun went down, I crawled into my tent and tried to get some sleep, but my mind wouldn't shut off. I kept replaying the breakup in my head, picking apart every word, every mistake, every what if. I don't know how long I lied there like that, just listening to the river and the light patter of rain against the tent. At some point, though, I started hearing something else. Faint, uneven sounds, like someone stepping carefully over wet ground.
I wonder who it is.
At first, I tried to convince myself it was just the rain or some animal, but the longer I listened, the clearer it became.
Yep.
Footsteps circling the campsite.
Say
The second
goodbye.
I made that connection, my stomach dropped straight through the ground.
I hope you have a gun.
I didn't even have to wonder who it might be.
I hope you have a weapon
I'm no
on you.
fool. I never go into the woods alone without protection, and this was no exception.
Okay.
I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my handgun from where I kept it tucked by
Let's
my
go.
sleeping bag.
Good.
I
Nice.
unzipped the tent and stepped out into the rain.
Ah.
My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, but I
Who
needed
is
to
it?
stay calm. I clicked my flashlight on and swept it across the trees, and there he was.
What?
That creep from earlier,
Here we
standing
go.
a few yards away, half
GG's.
hiding behind a tree. He
Wow.
wasn't smiling or scowling. He just had this blank expression on his face, like he
This
wasn't
dude's
all there
weird.
mentally. The scariest part wasn't his demeanor, though, but the fact that he was holding a small axe in his left hand.
Help! Help! Help me! Help!
So I guess when they were fishing, they were literally not fishing. They were just putting body parts in the river. Oh man. And you were going to be their next victim. Crazy.
For a second, I couldn't move. All I could think about was how far I was from anyone, how nobody would even hear me scream if it came to that.
Yeah.
But somehow, I managed to raise the gun and level it at him.
Yeah.
I forced my voice to stay calm, even though every part of me was screaming.
Good.
As sternly as I could, I said, "Leave now or I'll kill you." His facial expression didn't change at all.
Wow.
It was like my words meant nothing to him.
He doesn't care.
After a few seconds of silence, he mumbled something about how his friend Ivan had discouraged him from coming to find me, and that he had to take care of Ivan. I didn't wait for him to say.
Woo! What the fuck?
You tell me the other dude that you were with, fishing with, you chopped him up?
Yeah.
Because he disagreed with you? Oh my goodness, bro. You see what happens when you go to these stupid freaking camps? Put yourself in this situation. People still do it till this day. Why? Why put your life at jeopardy like that? Why?
Why? Why? Why? Why? Why?
Anything else. I fired a shot straight into the trees above his head. He stumbled a bit, clearly not expecting me to do that. I leveled the gun at him again, a little more confident now.
Okay, nice.
I told him it was his last chance and to drop the axe.
Bro, shoot him in the
He
head.
did, and a huge wave of relief washed over me. But I wasn't out of the woods yet. I told him to take his shoes off so that he'd have trouble following me.
Ooh.
Then made sure he didn't have any other weapons on his person.
Ooh.
Once I was sure he wasn't armed,
Okay.
I told him to go to my tent and grab my gear. I watched him like a hawk as he fumbled with my stuff, forcing him to toss it all out into the open.
This, bro, Anisha, not only did you tell him to leave, you said, wait, hold up real quick. Take off them boots real quick. Go to my tent, grab my gear. Slowly. Like, that is crazy. Like, that is crazy. Yeah, Anisha's smart.
I could
yeah.
see it. I packed the essentials as fast as I
Very
could,
smart.
never letting him out of my sight.
Not smart enough, though. Cause
Jammed the axe into my backpack and made sure I wasn't forgetting anything. I'd have to leave the tent behind, but that was a small price to pay for
who
staying
cares?
alive.
Who cares?
I then grabbed his shoes and threw them as far as I could into the darkness.
Nice.
And I told him to walk in the opposite direction.
Nice.
I kept the light on him the whole time, and the moment he walked far enough out of sight, I turned and started hiking back up the river as fast as I could.
Run.
That was the scariest part of the whole encounter. Stumbling through the pitch black forest in the rain with a potential murderer behind
Oh,
me.
that is
I
a
wasn't
horror
sure if he was
story.
following me, but I didn't care.
That's a horror
I just
game.
kept going, trying to use the flashlight as minimally as possible. Both pickup trucks were still in the pullout when I finally made it back to my car.
Wow.
I didn't stop though. I threw everything in and sped out of there. When I got cell service back, I called the police and reported the whole incident, describing my location as best as I could.
Yep.
A few months have passed since then, and I'm not sure if anything ever came of it, but I'm not going out of my way to find out.
Yeah.
What still scares me most about the whole thing is that comment he made about his friend Ivan, that
dead.
he quote-unquote took care of him.
Yep.
I really don't want to think about what that means.
You know what that
There's only
means.
so many explanations.
No, there's only
Just glad
one.
I was armed. I could have easily lost my life that night if I hadn't been.
Yep. Bruh, you know exactly what he meant by he took care of him. Chopped them up into body parts. Okay, wow. You put yourself in that situation. You have to get yourself out. And you did it by the grace of God, safe and sound. You feel me? Thank God. Because some people don't even bring weapons with them. We reacted to stories where people don't even bring weapons when they're going camping. No gun, no nothing. Lucky you brought yours. Alright, I'll catch you guys later. For all those kids out there, remember to lock everything in your house. People that are trying to do something like this still, you're putting your life at jeopardy. This is on you, you know what I'm saying? You didn't even bring the Bible with you. That was your loss. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Take care. God bless. Peace.
You win. Perfect.